Episode 14, Moving Time. So my grandpa had just passed away, Troy was disfellowshipped, and my son just got abused at the Kingdom Hall. And, physically, not sexually, but trauma, major trauma. And so I really don't want to go to this Kingdom Hall anymore. And I really kind of wouldn't mind moving to a town over because I feel like it's a smaller town and I feel like everywhere I go, I don't know if I'm accidentally running into people Troy hooked up with. It was just a really bad feeling. And Troy was embracing SAA. He was kind of trying to work on himself, and he said, I think I have a sex addiction, and it started when I was a kid, and I do want to make it right, so I'm going to join SAA, which is Sex Addicts Anonymous. And he right away went to hosting the meetings, and I think part of that is probably because we're Jehovah's Witnesses, and we get taught how to speak and how to conduct ourselves and speak eloquently and whatever. So he joined a couple of meetings. He was doing them every day. It was on the phone. And then right away they kind of called on him to hold the meetings on the phone. And he really liked it. So I was like, okay, it's very different to me than drug and alcohol addiction. For one, it doesn't affect your partner the same way. Of course, it does affect your partner, but it's just so much more personal when it's sex addiction. And on the other hand, I feel like, to me, and that's just me, and see, I forgave him because I don't know, and because I give everyone the benefit of the doubt. But on the other hand, you kind of think going to have sex with someone is a little bit more of a choice than drug and alcohol addiction. But alas, he was doing SAA, he was doing well, and I thought, okay, well, that's good, and I watched this Lifetime movie with Lisa Rinna, and I think it's Mark Hamill and her husband, on sex addiction. They end up making it work, and she forgives him. I'll post it in the community thread because it was really a good movie to watch. It kind of showed the reality of sex addiction, but at the same time I think it's a little bit fairy tale ending where they make it work, because being married to a sex addict is very, very rough waters, and just my anxiety level, because now, wherever he would go with men or women, I'm like, is he cheating? Is he cheating? That's not normal to feel like that. And then we had this elder in our hall who was married, but really didn't seem straight. So weird. One meeting, he goes up to Troy, this elder that didn't really seem straight. And I know, you can't tell, because you couldn't tell that Troy was, hooking up with guys, could not tell, so it is whatever, but this guy was giving off vibes, right? And he comes over at the meeting and he slaps Troy on the butt. Kind of weird. And he wanted to go in service with Troy, and I'm just I know we're not supposed to. See, this is why it shows that the Jehovah's Witness rule with a chaperone and all that when you're with someone of the opposite sex is totally stupid, because oh my gosh, you're alone with a woman, how horrible. Meanwhile, what if you're secretly gay and you're alone with someone of the same sex? This whole chaperone thing is flawed. So this elder wanted to go in service with Troy, and I'm just nervous with everything all the time. But Troy was doing SAA, and I was kind of saying we should move, and so we started kind of looking at houses one town over where he could still kind of keep his job, but it would be a different congregation. And one day he comes home and he's like, how about we move, totally move, kind of far away. And I'm like, I mean, I'm fine with that, but are you fine with that? Because he kind of did have like a bigger family there. And he's like, yeah, I am. So he starts applying for jobs, and, you know, it's kind of just my mom on my side, and mom's like, yeah, I'm totally cool with that. I'll go wherever you guys go. I'm like, well, maybe we can all buy like a house together, because that way I could already like help her, and she helped me so much with the kids too. I was like really thankful to her. And we actually started to look at houses in the new state, and Troy started applying for jobs and actually got like a better job. And he really wanted to be reinstated before we moved. So he would write like letters of appeal to be reinstated. And at the time, I would say he was really doing better. Like, he was being nice. It seemed okay. I mean, my inner stress didn't go away, because I think like once you're affected by all of this, it doesn't just go away. But on the surface, like, everything seemed kind of okay. And so he actually got a better job out of state, and we ended up moving with the kids, with my mom. And he had to go to the new state early to start his job, and stayed like in an extended stay hotel, because we hadn't closed on the new house yet, because we had to like sell our houses in order to close on the new house. And both of our houses did eventually like sell, but it was really just me and like little kids and my mom, and I had to like pack up my mom, her entire household, and then my house. We had like this huge truck outside, and I was packing up, and I was carrying furniture outside. And my neighbor, this was so embarrassing, my neighbor comes outside and says, I do not want to see you carry another piece of furniture by yourself. Will you call me and I will help you? And I'm just like ashamed, because Troy didn't even come back over the weekend to help like pack up and move. Like, he was in his little extended stay, honestly doing God knows what. And here I'm like packing up 2 houses with little kids in tow. And I was so sick. I ended up having like a sinus infection and pink eye, and I was just sick from all the stress and moving and closing and all that. And we're trying to close on the new house in the new state. And Troy, because now he got a good job, goes and buys a brand new car while we're in closing. You are not allowed to do that when you're in closing. You screw up everything. And he did. He screwed everything up, that we ended up like not being able to close, and they kept pushing it forward because now they had to, like, they were so mad at him, and he went and bought a brand new car. Because I get it. He felt like, I got a great new job, I deserve a new car. But like, without even talking to me, he just comes home, bought a new car, and I'm like, we're in the middle of closing. Oh, it was so stupid. And then I'm like, my neighbor who was mad at me for carrying furniture out to the truck, he was already like, I was so embarrassed whenever I would see him, because when we first had bought our first house, Troy was like, oh, I'm so excited to be a married man and have a house. I can't wait to like cut the grass. It's such a family guy thing to do, you know, such a dad thing. And he would always say like, I can't wait to wear my wedding ring just like my dad. I swear, I think like all that was such BS just to like say nice things to me. And I'm like, oh, that's so nice. Meanwhile, he completely stopped wearing his wedding ring, and he says to me, it doesn't fit anymore. So I had it like sized for an anniversary and gave it to him sized. And he was so angry about that because he didn't want to wear his wedding ring. And I was like confused because I thought I did something nice, but okay. And like, I remember like, I think one of our last anniversaries, because, you know, as Jehovah's Witnesses, you don't really celebrate anything. So we kind of would like make a big deal out of the anniversary, especially for the kids. And he didn't get me anything, like not even flowers, not a card, nothing. And it just kind of like, you're like, wow, that hurts. Okay. So, as time goes by and we're living in this house, he worked and I did everything at home, everything with the kids. I cooked almost every single day. I packed him food for lunch, and I did this happily. Like, I made him breakfast, and because we tried to be kind of healthy, I did all of this happily. But he said, like, his one thing that he would do is mow the lawn. Well, the years went by, and the vanity wore off, and he didn't like mowing the lawn anymore, so he just quit mowing the lawn. And we don't really have enough money to hire someone. You know, we're, like, struggling J-dubs. And my neighbor, who is so sweet, starts mowing the lawn for us. And Troy was inside playing video games on a Saturday as the neighbor mows our lawn. And I'm just like ashamed because here we're in the house and he's just kind of being a lazy bum. And he goes and like shuts the blinds so the neighbor wouldn't see him. And then from then on out, the neighbor always cut our lawn. And I just thought it was so embarrassing. Even like 9 months pregnant, I would take the trash out and haul the big trash cans along our, like, you know, kind of long driveway. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe, like, it just was like, there's these moments where you're like ashamed because, like, wow, this is just crazy. So here I'm like packing up it's one of those huge moving trucks, like a semi, you know, it was parked, and I'm packing up Mom, no Troy to help. And the neighbor's like, don't you dare you call me. And I'm just ashamed. I'm like, oh, this is so embarrassing. So embarrassing. And it was kind of like the move. You know, when you're in AA, they say you shouldn't make like big changes while you're working your sobriety, like the first year or second year. And I get it because of routine, you know. So Troy moves to the new state, starts his new job, is in the like extended stay for a couple weeks before I come down with the kids and my mom. And he quit doing SAA. It just like, not like he didn't have all the time in the world, but he went from like hosting the meetings every single day and counting his sobriety to just quitting. And it would rattle me a little bit because I'm like, wait. And he'd be like, I don't even need it anymore. I'm like, okay, that's like, I mean, it was kind of part of our agreement. You can't just like quit it. And he's like, I don't have time for this. I start a new job, whatever. And there wasn't really like any talk about it or anything. It just was very stressy situations. So finally, the last day that we lived in the old house, there was a few people from the congregation, but it was really just like my closest friends who came and helped on a regular basis. I don't feel like people really, but also I think they don't really have time. You know, when people are elders and all this, do they really have time to help others? It's not a religion that emphasizes helping people because, you know, you can't count those hours when you're helping people. And there was an incident where I really noticed that too, that like counting hours. So the Jehovah's Witnesses, they just got rid of this rule, but it used to be a rule that when you preach, you write your preaching hours on a piece of paper and you give it to the elders so they see if you're doing well spiritually. It's kind of like a control thing though too. And you know, I was born into it, so for me that was really normal to count my hours, basically volunteering, and then give it on a piece of paper to the elders. But when people join the Jehovah's Witnesses, this must feel so weird to them because it is so strange. And you get hours, you get volunteers hours by preaching, by going to Kingdom Hall construction sites, which isn't really preaching, but you get preaching hours. So weird. And how come you don't get volunteer hours when you go visit elderly ones or when you help someone? It's just so weird. So there was one sister in our hall. And she had to move in with her disfellowshipped son. And isn't that just so weird too? Like, don't talk to them. Oh, now you're old. Why don't you go move in with your disfellowshipped son? And then that's when he's good enough. And I felt like a lot of compassion for him at the time already, even though I was still a Jehovah's Witness, because I felt like, man, that's like weird. And then she was all embarrassed. I live with my son and he's disfellowshipped. And I'm like, it's okay. It's your son, So she ended up passing away, and I never got to visit her again. And I said to one of the elders, who was a nice guy, and I know he meant well. He didn't mean this mean, but it was still weird. I said to him, I feel so bad because as she wasn't able to go to meetings anymore, I didn't even go visit her. Like, I didn't have time to visit her. And this elder said, and this is just like the Jehovah's Witness spirit, that's okay, because you were doing more important things by going in service, which we call preaching, and that's okay. And I'm like, wow, that's weird. Like, that's so weird. Like, going preaching, like recruiting new people is more important than visiting like an elderly sister. And I just felt so guilty. And he's like, no, you were doing more important things by preaching. Oh boy, what a terrible mentality. And especially since I've been through all that with my grandpa, I didn't like that. But at the same time, here we are, like on this hamster wheel with kids and all this stuff. And I should have gone and visit her. I should have made it a priority. So, yeah. Anyway, so we moved. We moved to a new state. And he started a new job and quit SAA. And I'm just like, oh no. But I think like the first year in the new state, he was doing okay, but I just didn't really feel like at ease. But I didn't know if that was just because of all the stuff that had happened, or if I could really, or if he really was trying. And then they kind of started to make him travel for work. And I thought, oh, this is like not healthy, because it's so much opportunity when you're in a hotel far away from home. And I just like did not feel good about that situation. And I really couldn't go with him because the kids were in school. So it's not like I could just like leave ship. Plus, I'm not a babysitter. Like, I would like to be in a relationship where I trust you, where you can go, or if I go with you, I want to go because we want to do something together. It's not because I need to babysit you so you don't go and cheat, But it just felt really weird that he was going on all these trips. And again, he was like, the first year was like, okay. And then he started to get mean again. Really, really mean. And one day he left the site open on his iPad. And I hadn't seen that site, and it was really weird. And there were things that were just like shocking. And I'm going to leave that to a new episode for tomorrow. Stay tuned.